Below us, a carrier strike group relies on layered defenses, but the missiles we are about to explore are designed to break through those layers. Subsonic cruise missiles creep in low, supersonic missiles rush in loudly, and hypersonic weapons slash through the atmosphere.
This is where the Mako concept comes in. A hypersonic missile sized to ride inside stealth fighters.
For a pilot, that means flying closer to defended airspace with confidence, because the first blow can be delivered.
Hypersonic missiles like Mako are only part of a larger family, alongside stealthy subsonic cruise missiles such as
Long-range anti-ship missile is a stealthy sea-skimming hunter, designed to fly just above the waves, using its shape and sensors to...
Designers envision profiles where Mako can climb, maneuver, and then dive or skim, depending on the mission, striking. Mako relies on speed and kinetic energy as much as its warhead, while long-range anti-ship missile uses stealth and smart guidance. Zircon launches from ships and submarines, a hypersonic spear pointed outward toward any force that dares to operate within its reach. F-21D rises from deep inside a continent, using height and gravity to send its warhead back down toward moving targets at sea. Layered defenses around a carrier group work best when threats are slow enough and predictable enough. But
With the outer eyes damaged, Blue Force follows up, sending long-range anti-ship missile along carefully plotted sea.
What if a single hypersonic missile launched from a stealth fighter that you never see on radar could decide the fate of an entire carrier strike group?
Tonight we leave the ground and fly into the world of hypersonic missiles, stealth fighters, and the weapons that can end a battle before it even begins.
I am a United States stealth fighter pilot, and this is the environment where seconds matter, and threats move faster than thought.
Alongside me is a defense analyst who studies every missile, every radar, and every engagement to understand how this deadly chess game is really played.
Together we will compare the newest hypersonic weapon Mako with long-range anti-ship missile, joint air-to-surface standoff missile extended range. From this height the battlefield looks calm, but beneath the clouds every ship, every airbase, and every radar station is a potential.
Hypersonic missiles and stealth aircraft are reshaping the rules of naval warfare, forcing every commander to rethink how to survive the first wave of attacks.
The story begins with one question that keeps us awake at night. How do you defend a fleet when the enemy's weapons travel faster than 5 times the speed of sound?
To answer that, we have to open the doors of the stealth fighters and see what they can truly carry inside. Below us, a carrier strike group relies on layered defenses, but the missiles we are about to explore are designed to break through those layers.
First, let us understand the race between stealth and speed, between aircraft that try not to be seen and missiles that are simply too fast to intercept easily.
Subsonic cruise missiles creep in low, supersonic missiles rush in loudly, and hypersonic weapons slash through the atmosphere. Stealth fighters like the F-35 and F-22 bring their own advantages. They are hard to see on radar, and
Inside those bays, a new class of weapon is emerging, a compact hypersonic missile designed specifically to fit where no other hypersonic weapon has fit before.
This is where the Mako concept comes in. A hypersonic missile sized to ride inside stealth fighters.
Imagine launching a hypersonic strike not from a huge bomber or a warship, but from a stealth fighter that slips close to the enemy unseen before unleashing its payload.
For a pilot, that means flying closer to defended airspace with confidence, because the first blow can be delivered.
For the defense analyst, it means rethinking how to protect ships and bases from threats that arrive faster and from more directions than ever before.
Hypersonic missiles like Mako are only part of a larger family, alongside stealthy subsonic cruise missiles such as
long-range anti-ship missile and joint air-to-surface standoff missile extended range are slower, but they use stealth shaping and low-altitude flight to
Long-range anti-ship missile is a stealthy sea-skimming hunter, designed to fly just above the waves, using its shape and sensors to...
Joint air-to-surface standoff missile extended range trades raw speed for reach and stealth, gliding and cruising far inland to strike air. Hypersonic weapons like Mako, Zircon, and the Chinese systems leave even less time for decision-making, tearing through the sky in minutes rather than tens of minutes. Russian Zircon is reported to reach speeds above Mach 8, launched from ships and submarines to threaten naval formations and land targets from long range.
The Chinese Dongfeng 21D ballistic missile rises high above the atmosphere before diving back down.
Dongfeng 17 adds a hypersonic glide vehicle that can maneuver in the upper atmosphere, complicating the job of any interceptor that tries to predict where it will go next.
Against this backdrop, a compact weapon, like Mako, carried quietly inside a stealth fighter, becomes more than just another.
On my display, Mako appears as a new option, a hypersonic strike that I can launch while still preserving the stealth of my aircraft until the very last moment.
It is compact, slender, and hardened for the heat of hypersonic flight. Designed to survive the friction of the atmosphere.
The launch sequence is simple from my point of view. The bay opens. The missile falls clear lights. Its motor.
In seconds, the missile is climbing and accelerating to Mach 5 and beyond, compressing the time between launch and impact and shrinking the defender's window to almost nothing.
Designers envision profiles where Mako can climb, maneuver, and then dive or skim, depending on the mission, striking.
That flexibility turns a single stealth fighter into a multi-role strike platform, able to blind radar, punch holes in air defense.
For the pilot, it means choosing exactly where to apply that hypersonic punch, carving a path for follow-on aircraft armed with
Mako relies on speed and kinetic energy as much as its warhead, while long-range anti-ship missile uses stealth and smart guidance. A single stealth fighter might carry a mix of these weapons in the future, a hypersonic blade in the bay, and stealthy cruise missiles.
Plastics. Each system has trade-offs. Some are faster, some are stealthier, some are cheaper, but together they create a menu of options for
Russian Zircon and Chinese systems add their own psychological promising to push naval force tropical coastlines.
Zircon launches from ships and submarines, a hypersonic spear pointed outward toward any force that dares to operate within its reach. Dongfeng 21D rises from deep inside a continent, using height and gravity to send its warhead back down toward moving targets at sea.
Dongfeng 17's hypersonic glide vehicle makes that tracking problem even harder, dodging and weaving through the upper atmosphere.
In this environment, the question is not only how to attack, but also how to survive when the other side fields its own hypersonic and long-range weapons.
My cockpit is full of symbols, friendly and hostile, and every one of those red icons represents a missile that may already be.
Layered defenses around a carrier group work best when threats are slow enough and predictable enough. But every aircraft on that deck, every sailor in those ships, depends on our ability to blunt these attacks or stop them before they begin.
This is where Mako's combination of stealth deliver and hypersonic speed matters, because it allows. A planner might send the stealth fighter forward with Mako to shatter radar and long-range air defenses, then follow with.
From above, the geometry of such an attack looks precise and almost elegant. But for those below, it means chaos.
Hypersonic timescales are brutal. By the time the countdown reaches 0 for a weapon like Mako, defenders may only just be detecting it.
Radar beams that can track aircraft and cruise missiles may struggle when a hypersonic object whips across their field of view in an instant. Human decision-makers in such command centers must decide in seconds which tracks are real, which are decoys, and where to aim their limited interceptors.
But while these systems sound terrifying, no weapon is perfect, and every missile, even hypersonic ones, has limitations that.
Guidance systems can be deceived, data links can be jammed, targeting information can be outdated if the enemy moves at the wrong moment. Ships can maneuver, turn, and reposition, and even a hypersonic missile must still find its target in a dynamic ocean.
As an analyst, I never assume a single weapon wins the war. Instead, I look at how each piece fits together and how each side adapts to the other's moves.
Mako, long-range anti-ship missile, joint air-to-surface standoff missile extended range, Zircon, Dongfeng 21D and Dongfeng 17.
Ranges carve invisible zones on the planet, where navies are cautious, where air bases are fortified, and where every move is. Let us imagine now a hypothetical scenario. Blue and red forces converging near a disputed sea.
Blue Force stealth fighters move ahead of their fleet, tasked with blinding Red Force sensors and opening a corridor for their navy and bombers.
Their plan is simple in theory. Launch Mako from stealth fighters to destroy long-range radars and anti-aircraft missile batteries that protect the enemy coast. On the ground, Red Force depends on these sites to see far out over the sea. and losing them would make it much harder to stop follow-up attacks. From my cockpit, I select the radar symbol, confirm the attack, and commit to a launch that will send a hypersonic weapon racing inland in seconds. The bay opens, the missiles fall, and then bright plumes mark the beginning of a very short countdown for everyone under their path.
The missile climbs to its planned altitude, adjusts its course based on updated data, and begins its terminal approach with
For the radar crew, the first clear sign might be a streak and then an impact, a combination of kinetic energy and explosive force that shatters the installation. Interceptors are launched, but timing is unforgiving, and many systems were designed with slower, more predictable threats in mind.
With the outer eyes damaged, Blue Force follows up, sending long-range anti-ship missile along carefully plotted sea.
Red ships now operate with shorter range awareness, reacting later to incoming cruise missiles that hug the sea and exploit every fold in the waves. Stealthy and low, these missiles combine patience with precision, arriving after the hypersonic blow has already disrupted the defender's command and control.
Some missiles get through, some are intercepted, but the overall effect is clear. A complex, layered attack.
From up here we see the pattern, but no scenario is one-sided, because Red Force has its own long-range and hypersonic weapons pointed back at Blue Force's.
As Blue advances, Red responds with ballistic and hypersonic systems of its own, aiming at carriers,
Blue defenses roar to life, launching interceptors, activating jamming systems, and dispersing ships to dilute the threat from these long-reaching weapons.
Some incoming threats are intercepted, some are not, and the reality is that both sides suffer losses in any full-scale exchange of such advanced weapons. The end result is rarely a clean victory. More often it is a costly exchange that leaves both sides bloodied and wary of pushing further.
In such a world, hypersonic and stealth weapons are not magic wands. They are high-stakes tools that raise the price of
As an analyst, I see them as a warning, a sign that rapid escalation could outrun diplomacy and decision-making if leaders are not extremely careful.
As a pilot, I train to use these weapons if ordered, but I also hope that their very existence convinces rivals to think twice before choosing war.
Deterrence is built on the knowledge of what could happen, on both sides understanding that a modern strike can be devastating even in the opening minutes.
Mako and its counterparts are more than hardware. They are signals, messages written in metal and fuel that say, "We can reach you before you are ready."
Behind the technology, behind the numbers and acronyms, millions of ordinary lives depend on these weapons.
For now, the scenario remains virtual, a thought experiment played out on screens and in training flights.
The true victory is when pilots like us land our jets with every missile still on the rack, having deterred conflict rather than fought it.
That depends on decisions made in rooms like this, where planners, diplomats, and leaders weigh capabilities like Mako against the risks of escalation.
Stealth fighters return to their bases, missiles are inspected and maintained, and the cycle of training and analysis continues again and again.
Every landing is a reminder that these are ultimately tools, not masters, and that human judgment must always stand above the machines.
Ground crews, engineers, and analysts swarm the aircraft, downloading data, updating software, and refining tactics for the next mission and the next scenario.
In debriefs, we rewind the fight, compare hypersonic and cruise missile timelines, and look for better ways to protect. The sea itself does not care which SID wins. It only reflects the choices we make above and below its surface. Engineers refine designs, improve guidance, strengthen structures for hypersonic heat, and adjust software that tells missiles where and when to turn.
Every test flight teaches us more about what is possible and what is still only theory when it comes to these extreme speeds.
Out over remote ranges, prototypes push the envelope, chasing stability, accuracy, and survivability in conditions.
At this point, it is clear that hypersonic weapons will stay, but how we integrate them into strategy and how we prevent them from future stealth aircraft and next-generation missiles may go even faster, fly even.
Rivals will watch each other's tests, count each other's launchers, and adjust their doctrines, always balancing fears.
In the age of hypersonic missiles and stealth fighters, the real question is not who can strike first, but whether.
In the end, these are tools of deterrence and last resort, and the greatest victory is when their power shapes peace rather than war.